Do you find that some days everything comes so easily, and other days you can't help but compare yourself to someone who seems to be further ahead than you? Since starting my healing journey, this headspace has definitely been one of the biggest areas that I've worked on. And it seems like it's the layers of an onion where I get past a certain obstacle, past a certain hurdle, past a certain type of mind frame, and then comes something new to start working on. And in talking to other people who are also on a healing journey, it really seems like the mental and the emotional blocks present some of the biggest obstacles for us to get through. And this seems to be true across the board too, regardless of where you are at in your journey. I was talking to a really good friend recently, and he's always been someone who's really been uplifting and inspiring to me on my own journey. He's a wonderful person, always super positive, has great business sense. He's launched and been successful in multiple businesses throughout the time that I've known him. And he and I were chatting recently, and I kind of opened up to him about some struggles that I've been kind of working throughout this year. Yeah. And he told me, I asked him, I was like, what is it that you do to stay so energized all the time, to get so many things done, to just keep going, keep pushing yourself, and just have a happy face throughout all of it? And he opened up to me and he said that he definitely does struggle just like everybody else does, regardless of how it might appear on social media, right? And he told me that one of the things that he has recently made a non negotiable in his life has been positive affirmations. And throughout my time working with other people, having a positive affirmation routine or practice has been something that I've kind of guided some people into along the way. And it's worked for some people and it hasn't worked for others. And in my own personal journey, positive affirmations haven't been super impactful. I've gravitated towards other practices naturally. But being that he's someone that I respect and admire so much, I said, okay, well, I'll give it a shot. Why not? And so he sent me a couple of videos that he listens to regularly. I'll link the links in the description below. It's a wonderful YouTube channel. And I said, okay, why not? I'm going to dedicate myself to having a positive affirmation practice daily for the next 2 weeks and see what it does. At that point, I didn't have anything to lose. And I kid you not, the shifts that I've felt in my life over just the last 2 weeks have been truly eye opening. And this is probably like one of a handful of practices that I have incorporated over the course of my journey that have had almost instantaneous effects, which is kind of hard to do, especially when you're in the throes of like doing your own inner work. It can sometimes feel like you're not making any progress at all. And this is now one of the practices at the very top of my list that have also become a non-negotiable in my daily life. So in today's video, I want to share with you 5 things that have completely shifted in my life over the last 2 weeks and that have officially made me a firm believer in the power of positive affirmations. The first thing that I noticed, and this was on day 1 of this practice, was I experienced an improved sense of mental clarity and stillness. I definitely can tend towards anxiety, but my anxiety tends to manifest more so like in the mental space where I can have like rapid, frequent, incessant rumination or just a lot of thoughts going through my head all at once, going through to-do lists, you name it. I'm sure that you can relate. And on that first day, I noticed a very profound stillness in my thoughts, which was very different from the kind of stillness that I get from my daily meditation practice. And my theory here is that because I have a tendency of having those thoughts kind of like rapid fire through my head depending on the day, listening to the positive affirmation and then repeating it myself for that allotted period of time seemed to interrupt those thought patterns and replace it with something that was actually beneficial to me. And if this is something that you can relate to on some level, you probably understand that if you're not mindful of the way that your thoughts are being used by you, it's really easy for those thoughts to all of a sudden become a runaway train that's really hard to interrupt as the day progresses. And especially right now, with everything that's going on in the world, it can be really, really difficult to keep that from happening. It's just the nature of things. And so, being able to experience this stillness and clarity of thought was super helpful for starting my day in that way and allowing it to kind of exist and carry me on through the rest of the day. The second unexpected shift that I felt was a ton more energy throughout the day. And when I sat to think about how this could possibly be, I realized that having any kind of negative thinking, whether it be any blocks that you have when it comes to like receiving abundance or just having a positive mindset, or maybe shifting your point of view from focusing on the negative to focusing on the positive, is that all of that requires so much energy. It really sucks the energy out of you to be in that kind of headspace, to not being able to open yourself up to raising your vibration and raising your energy levels to a higher frequency. Is it does take up a lot of your energy. And so I found that by having that mental clarity, having that stillness in my thoughts, and being able to really resonate with the positive affirmations that I was listening to and repeating out loud for myself, it elevated my frequency naturally without me even having to try too hard. And it gave me so much more energy that lasted throughout the day. Energy levels is definitely a struggle of mine, especially with, having to work with clients on a daily basis and wanting to show up fully for everyone. It can be very, very draining. And that's something that I've been working on. And so this was super unexpected. I was not expecting to have this benefit come from just a simple 15-minute positive affirmation practice in the morning. And to be super transparent, I'm sure you guys can definitely relate to this one. This was also during a time in my cycle where I am naturally more low energy. I could tend towards having like a lower mood, and everything that comes so easily during other parts of the month is more of a struggle during this time of the month. And so just the simple fact that I felt that much more energy and a higher frequency, higher vibration, all of that stuff during this phase of my cycle was like that much more of an eye-opener for me. Which takes me to the next eye-opening shift that I experienced, which was that I had greater emotional resiliency and emotional balance during this 2-week stretch. I found that it was a lot easier for me to stay centered and focused and not allow outside stressors to shake me up as much as they could have otherwise. And I found that this actually led to way better problem solving and being able to adapt to a situation on the fly. As someone with a tendency towards anxiety and like overactive thoughts and stuff like that, being in an anxious, energetic state can definitely affect my ability to problem solve effectively if I'm like feeling really off balance. And so within a couple days, I really found myself like being able to stay super centered. I was just not feeling as stressed out about certain things that would kind of just naturally come up over the course of the day or the week. It was really easy for me to just let things roll off my shoulder and just do what it is that I have to do in order to be able to get myself out of that situation efficiently and effectively. And it just felt so easy, which was so nice, so unexpected, and just made my life way easier in those 2 weeks than it would have been otherwise. And I feel like that trickled into this fourth thing that I noticed really shift in my life, was that it made it a lot easier for me to consistently and efficiently work towards my goals without overthinking and overanalyzing anything. And with that, it also felt like less of a conscious effort where I wasn't trying to do something, I was just being it. It felt like things just were rather than something that I had to do, if that makes any sense. And this kind of takes me back to a topic that I've touched on in a couple of my other videos, which is think, feel, and act in order to really begin to manifest the changes and the life that you truly desire, which is first you have to think something and then you have to feel it to be true, which will then allow you to effortlessly act in a way that's in alignment with that future self. And the deeper that I've been diving into this aspect of personal development and spirituality, I've found that being able to get into a flow state without conscious effort, just allowing it to be what it is what has allowed me to continue to progress on my journey. And it is a consistent practice. And I was just not at all expecting positive affirmations, listening to them, feeling them to be true, to make such a profound shift in this area of my life that has always felt like such a conscious like taker of my effort. And so because these like four areas of my life were just successfully and quickly falling into balance with each other, the fifth thing that I noticed that I am probably the most grateful for is that it allowed me to hold space for others in way easier, way less effort. It just came so much easier than it would otherwise. And this is super important to me because as someone who works with people on a daily basis, it's always my goal to show up fully for my first client of the day and show up just as fully with just as much presence for my last client of the day. And having all of this balance kind of flow into my life from just this simple, like positive affirmation practice in the morning, I found it just so much easier for me to stay present and grounded and centered in the room with my clients. And I noticed a shift in them as well, because by me staying centered and grounded and present with them, they were able to let out whatever it is that they needed to let out, and it allowed them to regulate themselves much faster than I've seen in other times of my life and my journey. And so in a way, like that was just such a big reminder for me too, that as we heal ourselves, as we continue on this journey, it also allows other people to progress in their own journeys as well. So there you have it. This has been my introduction to positive affirmations. I am a super firm believer in the power of positive affirmations now. I've been recommending it to everyone, and this has just showed me how important it is when you are on your healing journey to not get stuck on the things that have been working for you and stick to them religiously without also allowing yourself some flexibility to experience new things. When you are on a healing journey, it's really natural for you to start outgrowing certain practices and habits that have allowed you to get to the place that you are at today. And sometimes it's time for us to let those things go so that you can then move on to another phase of your healing journey with new practices, new habits, new energies around you. So stay open, stay positive. If you've never tried positive affirmations before, check them out, give it a shot. I guarantee that if you dedicate to this practice on a daily basis, the shifts in your life will be profound.